Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's program. Today with us, we have our own Dr. Sampadananda. It's one of the very important discussion we have, which is, I think, could be put into the bucket of one of the most confusing term used in our daily life, because it is at so many different levels that we yet to understand where and what is the nature of it, and obviously the practicality of it, how to do, what to do, because all our scriptures, all our rishis are saying something about it. So today we will have this opportunity to listen to Sampadananda, and at the same time, if there is any question, we can always take it. So the only one thing which I would like to say before I ask Sampadananda, that today's number of people are few, but I always take it only few are chosen. So we'll take it in that stride. And Sampadananda is, please continue.
Namaskar. So am I audible properly?
Yes.
So when we have this topic as desire and detachment. So Sanskrit word for desire is kama. Kama has various meanings, but in the sense of desire, we find the use of kama in various texts. So in the Gita, the beautiful saying, the most important message that it gives with regard to it, Krishna says to Arjuna, Jahi Shatrum Mahabaho Kama Rupam Durasadam. Therefore, Arjuna, Jahi, kill the Shatru, the enemy. Kama Rupam Durasadam. Durasadam, it is difficult to destroy this enemy, who is Kama, the desire, that which is there in our consciousness in the form of desire. In another place, it says, Nitya Vairina. It is the eternal enemy of man, the Kama. And when we pursue whatever the kind of sadhana may be, intensely or not intensely, but whatever practice we take up to lead a spiritual life, there are obstacles, and obstacles of various forms, and obstacles at various levels. Whether someone is doing a little practice of the sadhana or intense practice of sadhana, so everyone passes through these obstacles. There's a beautiful passage in Sri Aurobindo where he says, so I am just reading out that passage from my computer screen. So he says, it's in Letters on Yoga, part 4. He says, when the soul draws towards the divine, there may be resistance in the mind, and the common form of that is a denial and doubt, which may create mental and vital suffering. So that's at the mental level, that in the form of denial and doubt, so there is resistance in the mind, which creates suffering, mental vital suffering, which creates obstacles on the path of progress. So there may be problem at the vital level. He says there may, again, be a resistance in the vital nature whose principal character is desire and the attachment to the objects of desire. So what we are going to talk today, the desire and the detachment. Here, desire and the attachment, this is the principal character of the vital nature, which creates resistance. And at the physical consciousness also, so Sri Aurobindo said the physical consciousness also may offer a resistance, which is usually that of a fundamental inertia. We know it that physical is inertia, the tamas, and obscurity, in the very stuff of the physical. And then he says that there is moreover the resistance of the universal nature, which does not want the being to escape from the ignorance into the light, from the ignorance into the light. So Krishna again says in the Gita, this creates this desire, then becomes the cause of, or it emerges, it comes out of the ignorance, the result of ignorance, and they are all together, the ignorance, the aham, ahankara, the ego, the desire, they're all together. To do what? This ignorance, this aham bhava, and desire is always connected with the separative ego sense. It is that which wants, which has a lot of demand, which wants to satisfy many things. So we have insatiable desires, unending desires. If we satisfy one desire, there will be plenty of other desires. So what does it do? As Sri Aurobindo says, that they resist. So then we do not proceed from the ignorance to the light. And this is the major issue on the path of progress. So that's why the rishis of the Veda, so they say, so what is their prayer? That triple formula is asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityur ma amrutam gamaya. So from all that limits, all that puts us into the darkness, all that puts us into the ajnana, the ignorance, all that is unreal. So from there, we need to move to the light, the truth, to what is real, to what is ananda, from what is nirananda to the ananda, mrityurma, amrutam gamaya. So he says this, Gita says, this is the dushpura anala. This is anala. Very aptly, the Gita uses the word anala for the kama. And dushpura anala, that means this agni cannot be satisfied. It is the sarvagrasi. It can consume everything, the entire creation even. But yet it is not satisfied with anything. So desire can never be satisfied. It is the dushpura anala. What does it do? He said this nitya vairi, this eternal enemy of ours, which is the dushpura anala, the insatiable fire, O Kaunteya, avrutam jnanam etena jnanin. So however jnani, however knowledgeable, however wise a person may be, a little presence of this desire can lead to this state where it covers the entire jnanam. Avrutam jnanam etena jnanino nitya vairuna. This eternal enemy of man, it can cover, it can cloud the consciousness and then lead to a state where one finds completely helpless. So that is why whenever we walk on the path of the sadhana, the path of progress, so this is the level of caution that one has to take, especially when is very intensely following the path of sadhana, very intensely following the path of sadhana. So if we examine ourselves ruthlessly, though we call ourselves sadhak, but that intensity is lacking, that purity, that sincerity is very much lacking. I don't know about others, but I can say about myself that it needs years and years of efforts just to get rid of this one obstacle, which is desire. The desire can appear in various forms. One may say sometimes, no, I don't have any desire. But how does one decide that one doesn't have the desire? Its appearance can be in many subtle forms. In many subtle forms where it becomes very difficult to identify or recognize whether a desire exists in us or not. It comes in many forms. It deceives. It can come in a form of, which we will think that it is not desire, but it is aspiration. So there is a whole lot of difference, as we all know. Most of us who are present here have studied Sri Aurobindo many times. We have been following certain, uh, with rigor, this path of sadhana. And we know what is the difference between the aspiration and the desire. And when we talk about the sadhana, when we talk about attainment of a spiritual consciousness, there, what is that spiritual consciousness that we need to attain? What is the very nature of that? As we find in Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and then when we turn to the various Shastras, especially the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Gita, and many other philosophical texts, we find in a very simple language that state of spiritual consciousness can be defined or is seen, is explained to us by the realized people, that a state of perfect egolessness, a state of perfect egolessness where there is no trace of ego. But is it possible to become free from the state of ego? Is it possible to become free from this state of ego? So we saw that no one can eliminate the ego completely, because the same ego which is the barrier, same ego which is the helper, we cannot eliminate it from our consciousness, but we can become free from, at least make effort to become free from the separative ego sense, the separative ego which always creates the division. And it is that separative ego entity, that separative ego within our consciousness, which creates desire. And if that separative ego sense is absent, then there cannot be any desire. And wherever there is no desire. Now we see desire and attachment, kama and raga. Raga is the attachment, kama is the desire. So therefore, Krishna says to Arjuna that if you want to win, if you want to emerge as victorious, so your every effort of yours must be kama raga vivarjita. So this particular term he uses in a different sense in the Vibhuti Yoga, where he says, I am the kama. So the Bhagavan himself says that kama, but dharma aviruddha kama, and then he also uses this word kama raga vivarjita. Kama raga vivarjita, when he says that I am the bala, I am the strength. So most of the times when we have that strength is always attached with the ego at the lower level. So the strong man, the most egoistic man, but what is the pure strength which can help us walking strongly on the path of progress? So he says that balam balavatam chaham kama raga vivarjitam. So when we become the kama raga vivarjita, free from the desire and the attachment. Wherever there is desire, there is attachment. They are like two sides of coins. Desire is not free from attachment, attachment is not free from desire. So, kama raga, when we become truly free from these two, the desire and attachment, then we realize the true strength of ours. And with that strength, which gives us the courage, which gives us the strength to move, facing all kinds of challenges in life. So ego, the aham, desire, the kama, attachment, the raga, these are seen as the three most, dangerous uh, shatrus, the vairis of, of the man. And these are the three uh, aspects which belong to our ignorant self, the separative ego self, which is mostly the ignorant. And that is the reason ajnanam eva karanam. Sri Aurobindo says in his Upanishad that ajnanam, and that ajnana again is filled in with this ego, desire, and attachment. And we suffer suffer in various ways because of the presence of this ego, desire, and attachment, which belong to our separative ego sense, which keeps us engaged in our external self, the ego-driven self, the desire-driven self. And we think that it is the desire which is the driving force of all our action. If there is no desire, then there will be no action. So if one becomes desireless, what is there which will prompt, which will lead us to any action? So one becomes actionless. So that is what is our understanding that we need. It is desire is the driving force of action. When Krishna says to Arjuna that you have to do the nishkama karma, so this question arises that how can that karma be done when there is no desire? On another side, we have to become free from the desire and then become desireless. Then the true action can take place. With the desire, no true action, no pure action, no divine action can take place. But at the same time, the question remains with us that what then becomes the driving force for action? And then we all know that one answer is given in the Gita, and then how beautifully it is explained again by Sri Aurobindo, that the only aspiration or the only driving force towards action will be the divine. It is for the divine, only for the divine. That becomes the central point. Then the karma becomes the true nishkama karma. So kama, raga, vivarjita. One has to become free from this desire and attachment. But how? How do we practice it? What are the practical guidelines that we have in the Shastra, that we have from Sri Aurobindo and the mother? So then we will be able to become free from this desire. And we know that however strongly, intensely, purely we may make efforts to proceed on the path of sadhana, but there is much element of ego, much element of desire. We may accept it, we may not accept it, we may, what do you call, we may say that I do not have the ego, I do not have the desire, I do not have the attachment, just for the sake of saying. But if we closely analyze ourselves, we will see that we are far away from the reality, far away from the reality. So they are there, even though we cannot see it, or we try to sometimes impose on ourselves and on others the very desireless person. We want to present ourselves to others that yes, I am a desireless person, egoless person, detached person, just for the sake of presenting and then drawing the attention of others and then seeking the respect from others, so then others can respect me if I present myself in this manner. These are all deception from our side. And in the sadhana, in a true way, all this thing must end. No deception. One has to present oneself what one is. For the sake of talking, for the sake of giving lectures, for the sake of explaining it to others, we say so many things. But at a practical level, we need to ask this question again and again: are we truly like this? Am I truly free from desires? And as the mother says, and this is what we take the guidelines and then follow it. Sometimes we utterly fail, sometimes we succeed little, but whenever we fail also, again we come back to the divine, come back to the mother, and then we say that, okay, mother, forgive, I will make more effort, I'll make sincere effort again to proceed it. But we have to keep ourselves that open and then present ourselves to the divine in such a manner, like an innocent child presents itself how that child is, saying, having no reservation, having no hesitation, having no shrinking. And that's the only way that we can become free from these dangerous elements which are ruining us on the path. We may be succeeding with our ego, with our desire, with our attachment in some aspects of our life or many aspects of our life. But spiritually, from the sadhana point of view, we are ruining. We're not succeeding. When we talk about the detachment, so what is the way that we should follow to become detached from that? And what does it mean to be detached? Is it that I remain completely indifferent to the world? I do not participate in the world. I remain confined within myself in a state of silence. Sometimes our tamas we consider as silence. Sometimes our inertia we consider it as silence, and they say that okay, I'm in a different state. So we consider so many things wrongly. What is meant by the detachment? And then how do we put it into practice? Srimad Bhagavad Gita has a very beautiful explanation or definition or interpretation of what is that detachment, what is that vairagya. Because without the detachment, again, there is no sadhana, no progress on the path of sadhana. Every shastra you turn to the Gita, it will tell you this abhyasa and vairagya. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grishyate. So one has to persistently move on the path with all sincerity, purity, intensity at the same time. And this is what abhyas, uninterrupted, holding tight, as the mother says, not giving way. So sometimes we say, anyway, I don't have big desires, but I have these small desires. But on the path of sadhana, there's nothing small or big. Even that small is like, like when there is a flood in the river, if you make a small hole on the embankment, and that small hole will, become a big hole. So it is very wrong to say and then make a distinction between big desires and small desires, noble desires and not noble desires. And sometimes we also make a distinction between the spiritual desires and worldly desires. So the moment we allow, however small it may be, the moment we allow any desire, we know that we are going to fall this, into the trap of this enemy. Desires are innumerable, infinite, endless. Any kind of desire is harmful for a sadhak, for a sadhak. If someone has given himself to do the sadhana strictly, any kind of desire, small or big, is going to be dangerous. We should always have constant, uninterrupted, intense, pure, sincere aspirations, but no desires. So the desires are which create division in us, which brings suffering to us. The aspiration brings pure dynamism. The aspiration brings joy. The aspiration leads us towards the unity, not towards the division. The moment, so as long as the division exists in us, we should mark it that there is the presence of desire, there is the presence of this ego, there is the presence of this attachment. But when we become the desireless, so most of the times it leads to a state of ascetic attitude. Desirelessness is again seen as, in that sense, that a renunciate is an ascetic who withdraws himself from the world activities, remains silent, remains in the state of silence, not participating in the world. Withdraws himself from all kinds of activities, thinking all these are Maya, all these are problematic. But that is not what is meant on the path of sadhana, that one has to remain aloof to the world. One has to withdraw oneself from the world. So the Gita gives a very beautiful simile, which says Padma Patra Mivam Bhasa. What a beautiful image. Padma Patra Mivam Bhasa. That we have to be in this world, participate in this world, yet unattached to the world, unattached to anything. So what creates attachment? Desire. Where from desire comes, it is again the separative ego. Ahankara eva moolam. Ahankara eva bijam. That's the seed, that's the root cause of everything. And again, like we have a beautiful description in the Gita where it says that, look, the Kathopanishad says that if you concentrate or become aware of the senses, you will see that all our senses are open outward. So they see what lies in the external world. More the contact of the senses with the object as it grows, this contact of the senses with the object as it grows, so the attachment takes place. The desire to possess takes place. When we fail in possessing, or after possessing, when we find something, then the krodha comes, kamat krodha, krodhat moha, then the delusion. Then smriti vibhram, one forgets one's own self. One loses the memory of oneself. Smriti Bhranshat Buddhi Nasa. And then we lose all our Buddhi. We become completely clouded. Do not see the reality. Buddhi Nasat Pranashyati. This is where our spiritual death happens. The spiritual decline or ruin happens. So to be in that state of detachment, as the Gita says, Padma Patra Mivam Bhasa. Look at a lotus leaf. It is born out of the water, lives in the water, yet untouched by the water. That's the true Vairagya. That's the true Vairagya, the true detachment. Not to remain aloof, not to withdraw from the world's activities, not to participate dynamically in this world, but from a state of egolessness, from a state of desirelessness. Sounds really nice, but in a practical sense, very, very difficult to do. But there lies the beauty of sadhana. If no difficulties were there, then the sadhana also would not have been beautiful on the path. So we have, the sadhak has to take challenge, facing obstacles, and move and overcome these obstacles by one's own inner strength. So what are the ways? The ways are again numerous ways which have been shown to us through bhakti, through jnana, through karma, through samarpana. So we can get to it. But ultimately, to become free from this separative ego sense and the detachment, the pure samarpana, the purna samarpana. Without purna complete samarpana, atma nivedana, however great a sadhak may be, the sadhana culminates in that purna samarpana. The purna samarpana is not there. The complete giving is not there. There is always a risk of falling from and becoming the yoga bhrashta. In purna samarpana, That's why the Gita culminates in that, the summary of the Gita, Man Manabhava, Mad Bhakta, Mad Yaji, Mam Namaskuru. So become one with me totally. Madgata Bhava. Everything is united with the Lord completely, without any reservation, any shrinking, any hesitation. When that Purna Samarpana takes place, one becomes free from that asakti. I must have shared this story even in some of my previous sessions. But again, I feel tempted to share this story when we're talking about asakti and anasakti, the attachment and the detachment. What is true anasakti? What is true vairagya? When Krishna says that abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihiyate, or Patanjali says in his Yoga Sutra, abhyasa vairagya abhyam. What is that vairagya? True detachment. So the story goes like this: when Krishna left his body, the message of Krishna's departure was taken by Arjuna to Vasudeva and Devaki. There, Devaki says to Arjuna that, look, Arjuna, I don't think there is anyone in this world who is more unfortunate than me. Arjuna says, how can you say that, Ma? You are the Janani, you are the mother of the Yuga Purush, of the Avatar, of Krishna. How do you say that you are the unfortunate lady? Devaki says, look, Arjuna, I am the most unfortunate lady. But why do you say this? I say this because there are many things, but I'll just narrate you one thing. I had heard so much about Krishna's Makhan Chori, the stealing of the butter. But I never could feed my own child that. Intensely, I waited so long for this to happen, but it never happened. This is one of the reasons I feel myself unfortunate. Then Arjuna says, Krishna came, killed Kansa, and he lived in Mathura. Why didn't you feed? Devaki says that yes, it didn't happen. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that moment, that day, when I could feed Makhan to my own child. So I put the pitambari on him. I put the more punk on his head. I decorated him, and on a golden plate, I brought the Makhan. But looking at Makhan, he started crying, shedding tears. So I asked him, why are you crying? This is your most favorite food. And you know, I am waiting for this moment for such a long time, with such intensity, that I will feed you this Makhan. Why are you crying? Why are you not taking? So Krishna says, with tears flowing from his eyes, that look, Ma, when I left Gopapur, I had something or the other to give to everyone in Gopapur. To someone I have given my pagadi, to someone I have given my kathau, to someone I have given my pitambari, to someone I have given my pachan, my stick. So whatever material object had my touch, I have given. Everyone in Gopapura has got something. But when finally I was seeing off Ma Yashoda, I had nothing to give. So I told Ma Yashoda, I had a wonderful life with you, so full of joy. I have never seen you in state of remorse, in state of uh, any kind of depression or unhappiness. You always lived joyfully, and then how you took care of me. And today I'm living forever. We will not meet again. This is the final. But I have nothing to give you. So I give you a word that after I leave Gopapura, I will not take makhan from anyone's hands. Now you tell me, Ma Devaki, on one side, my words to Yashoda, and on another side, you, my Janani, you have given me birth, and so intensely waiting for this moment to take place. What do I do? Now Arjuna says, what did Krishna do finally? So Devaki says, Krishna did what was right for him to do. He didn't take makhan from my hand. And you know, Arjuna, why should Krishna take makhan from my hand? Krishna belongs to him or her in whose prema, in whose love, there is no asakti, there is no attachment. When we are talking about attachment, we are thinking of the attachment towards the material objects and many things. But attachment can happen at many levels with many things. He says, in whose prema, in whose love, there is no attachment. And my love for Krishna was so full of attachment and ego and desire. But my child, my son, I have given birth. I have given birth to my child. I will feed Mother. This is about Yashoda. Yashoda had no asakti. Yashoda's prema was anasakta prema, completely free from any kind of attachment. So Krishna belongs to Yashoda. Krishna belongs to Radha. Then Devaki says that, look, Arjuna, if any time you meet Krishna, tell him Devaki was remembered. And Devaki wants to be born again, not as Devaki, but as Yashoda, just to experience what is that anasakta prema. So the same thing happens with Radha. There is so complete surrender to Krishna. When no attachment remains, no ego, no desire remains, in that state of complete surrender, then one has the divine completely with him. So this is what I wanted to share with desire and detachment.
Thank you, Sampadananda. I think there are many questions, but let's see if anyone has any question. If you want to ask. I can ask the question. Let me start. So First of all, so beautifully you explain so many things. Obviously, it takes time to sync with the idea or with the things. But as you were mentioning that desire, the root or the birthplace of desire is vital. We don't experience vital on its own. We experience vital through mind. So first of all, we need to have that understanding, the difference between mind and vital, because we are only having any experience of anything through mental understanding or mental activity. So how do I, when do I come that, how do I get that distinction so that I can even come to see the origin of desire?
See, that is why, though we think that man is a mental being, Sri Aurobindo and the mother have very categorically have said that man is more vital than mental. Okay. And our whole sangrachana, the structure, the design is so complex that it is extremely difficult to distinguish between what is coming from the mind or the vital or the physical. So they all are mixed up, whether it is coming from the obscurity, from the inertia of the physical. Is it coming from that passion, that kind of things which belongs to the lower nature, to the vital, or it is coming something from the mind? They all are mixed up. So that is why the solution that is given to us, the guideline which we find, to grow more and more conscious of the different parts of our being, and then see it clearly where from that movement is arising. What is the source of that movement? It comes by growing more and more aware of ourselves, increasing the awareness within ourselves. So that's the solution. More we are aware, we
Sure.
can find out what is the source of the movement, whether it is coming from the mind, mental state, coming from the vital state, coming from the physical,
Yes.
what mixture.
Thank you. So there is another question from Dolores. How to see the delight behind it all?
How to see the delight?
Behind all of this, all of the desire.
A delight, the ananda is ever present, ever existing. But we don't see it. It is because of our narrowness of our consciousness, that we do not experience the ever existing ananda. So more we are expanded in our consciousness. So how much is the experience of ananda depends upon to what degree, to what extent we have expanded. So if I have expanded this much, the experience of ananda is only this much. If I have expanded this much. So to prepare the vessel, to prepare ourselves and expand and grow in consciousness, grow from within, live in that expanded vast consciousness. So that's how we'll experience more ananda and then see the presence of this delight behind everything. So the root cause of all our problems, all our suffering, affliction, not experiencing ananda, is the karpanya dosha, shrinking, narrowness, frog in the well.
Thank you. Any other question anyone has? So we have with us Anand Reddy ji also. Anand Reddy ji, are you there?
There.
Namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you for joining, Anand ji.
Well, it's my pleasure. I always want to hear Sampath.
Mhm.
So enjoy his talks. I said, let me be here with him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there is another question, Sampada, from Pramida. So she's saying, when there is no desire, there is a possibility of extreme tamas to set in. How do we break that pattern?
Yeah, that's what we discussed also, that the state of desirelessness should not lead us to that state of tamas. So the state of true egolessness, that separative ego sense, it should lead us to more light, more dynamism, more purity than tamas. How do we break that pattern? Again, by becoming conscious, by aspiring more, by detaching ourselves in a true sense and remaining within ourselves, by coming in contact with our inmost being uninterruptedly, by constantly invoking the divine, allowing the gods to grow within ourselves. So these are the ways which are shown to us to become free from that.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for joining today's call. I'm pretty sure all of us have to grow in and understand more as we listen this talk more and more, and we can share our thoughts within ourselves, within among a smaller group, or whenever we meet each other, and try to grow more and understand more conscious living, what Sampada is referring, what Mother has been asking us to do, and maybe that will lead us to the more yogic life degree. I will leave it for everyone to judge, but at least we can move in that direction. So again, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll hope to see you next time. Thank you. Thank you, Sampada, again, very much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sampada. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Vijay, you're actually in Hoboken.
Yes.
You're kidding.
No, no.